Hey guys, it's been a while. I was hoping to come back and talk about some more interesting things like Silk Song. But when I went to, on the day I meant to record the video on that after finishing up a period of crunch, uh, I saw the news about Charlie Kirk and saw the resulting firestorm of people online that uh, failed to show even basic decency. And so I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it would be remiss to talk about that since so many people in the games industry, my industry, have been agreeing with this line of thinking for so long and went mask off during this whole thing. Now, I started the week uh, kind of angry because we had found out more details about this woman, Irina, who was stabbed to death on a light rail. And when the mainstream media finally decided to cover it, it was something that they looked at and said, "Oh, well, this is a far right issue. The far right and the MAGA folks, so they're the only ones that really care about this terrible incident." Um, Basically, shifting the focus away from this actual terrible thing that happened and what uh, failures in our justice system in the United States have allowed to happen, and shifted the blame to people that were pointing out these systemic failures. So started the week angry. We hit Wednesday, and as the news broke out and he passed away, I wasn't angry. I was sad because we Charlie Kirk was an individual that would consistently try and talk to people no matter what worldview they had. He was someone that even if you disagreed with him, he'd be willing to talk to you. And that's something that in a civil society you have to be able to do. You need to be able to talk to people that have different worldviews. And a lot of people hated him for it. Because they have worldviews that they can't defend. So it is easier for a lot of people in civil society right now, to have someone challenge their worldview and the immediate response be like, well, that person's a Nazi, and I don't have conversations with Nazis. We've been hearing this for years now. That person's a racist or a bigot or a transphobe, so I don't talk to those people. And then they go back to echo chambers, and especially in places like Blue Sky and Reddit, to gas each other up. And we have heard consistent calls for violence from these groups where they say things like, we need to go back to punching Nazis or punch a transphobe. You should kill TERFs. These really vile things that people will say online on these websites. And these websites, they don't enforce their terms of service. A lot of these websites are based out of Silicon Valley. They're run out of by people that are leftists that agree with this kind of speech. They will ban people for having any kind of remotely conservative worldview on something, but they will not ban people for making truly vile statements on their platforms. I think it's really an issue on like Blue Sky's really bad. Twitch has a major issue where like their favorite streamer Hassan Piker will consistently make calls, like lightly veiled calls to commit acts of violence and say like somebody's got to do it, someone's got to do it. Like, why aren't people doing this? That would just fix everything. And we've heard that from people that orbit him as well, that are just saying, well, everything would be solved if someone steps up and does this terrible thing. It's truly not only vile, but it's also something that you just do not do in a civilized society. You have conversations. It should be a marketplace of ideas. And what we have seen in the immediate aftermath, to compare it to what things happen where the left feels aggrieved, like let's say criminals are being arrested for being in the country illegally. They're breaking the law. So what do? We burn down parts of the city. It's just, whereas right now, this is some terrible act that's happened to someone on the right. And what has happened is everyone has come together. They're saying this is terrible. There's a lot of people praying, holding vigils. No cities are burning down. And we have seen a number of I've at least seen a number of people online that had called themselves people on the left or Democrats or something that, to their credit, have said this is terrible, that it is disgusting for people to go and celebrate such a terrible act. And like we had even the mainstream media coming out and basically putting the blame for this act not on this this animal that did this, but instead placing the blame on Charlie Kirk. It's like, oh well, he was a hateful person. He knew what he was signing up for. What made him hateful? He had opinions that they disagreed with. Um, I think it was over 600 or 700 people that people are claiming that have been fired so far because of all of this. And I've seen a lot of people on the left decrying, saying, hey, this is unfair because you guys said cancel culture was bad. And if we look at cancel culture, when it was going on, we had a lot of people that would like pour through the ancient history of people and what they had said like years back and said, oh, well, this person said this thing 8 years ago, which means they need to be fired and they need to be homeless and they need to be kicked out of all of society forever. And it was vile. It was terrible. It was stupid and counterproductive. And what none of them seemed to realize was when you make a rule that says this kind of thing is okay, that rule can be applied to you. So right now, what's happening is people went online with their real names, with their real faces, and they were celebrating what was effectively an evil act. Like, it is not an extreme thing to say, hey, people should not be a subject of violence for having a different set of opinion. But that's what's happened here. And the same people, like we've got all these people getting fired, and these same people that were making these rules are making this rule now saying, oh, well, it's okay to commit political violence if it's someone I disagree with, because they don't have the basic logical understanding to understand that that rule can apply to them as well. So when these people are standing up there saying, this is okay, this is fine, he deserved it for what he said, they fundamentally do not understand that that can be applied to them as well. Now, among the people that are losing their jobs are started out with, I think, a Ghost of Yote dev that came out and was, mocking Charlie Kirk before, like, immediately after this whole thing happened. They were fired, and they then went back to Blue Sky, because of course it's Blue Sky, to say that if they were given the chance to do it again, they'd do it like 100 times stronger. Because of course they put themselves in these echo chambers, and that's Blue Sky is a massive echo chamber. Many sections of Reddit, massive echo chambers. Some parts of Twitter, even massive echo chambers, where they think this is all okay. More people, like Asmongold came out with a video that pointed out a lot of the developers that he had seen making fun of this terrible act. And a lot of them were from Sucker Punch Games, people that were working on this game. And you can bet there's a lot of people that are working on that game that agree with this, that just haven't gone out and were stupid enough to say something online. Because we've seen an issue in my industry where a lot of sections of the industry have been overwhelmed by activists. We've seen people coming in that will look and say, like, well, white males are a problem, even though white males are like one of the biggest demographics for video games, especially for the types of video games that they're making. And they will go out and they will say these terrible things, and they've gotten away with it for a very long time because a lot of people, they don't pay attention to the news. They do their job. They're not going to be looking at YouTube or stuff to like do research on anything, because they're just like, look, I just want to play a game and enjoy it. And they're going to buy the thing that they like. And there's no problem with that. You as a consumer should do whatever you want to do and not let anyone else decide how you want to spend your money. But we need to, society cannot function if we have huge swaths of our society that are pushing for violence and celebrating and glorifying violence. We have allowed this to fester, and I had hoped that things would get better over time. We've seen like a lot of things getting a lot worse in certain areas, with particularly with like immigration enforcement, where people believe that by like you've got people that are throwing things at cops as they are enforcing the laws that have been written by their own elected representatives. Like that is how a government's supposed to function. So if you're upset at the laws of a country, you're supposed to, vote in people that will change the laws. And they don't like that. So their response is, well, I don't like it. So that means I get to burn my town down and block traffic and throw things at people. And it's not how you cannot have a functioning society that way. A society ideally is not going to have these acts of violence, but debate. And what has happened here is the person that was most willing to debate with people with a different worldview was killed for it because he was good at it. And a lot of people I've seen that are celebrating this are like, well, that person was far right. That person was far right. They were extremist. And what they don't understand is like someone like Charlie Kirk was downright moderate in a lot of ways because he was willing to talk. He was okay. Like people were like, oh, he hates gay people. And then it'd be like gay people would talk to him and he'd be like, oh yeah, like we just, I don't think you should be defined on what you do in the bedroom. He was willing to talk to anyone. And a lot of people in the games industry right now are going out and making these wild statements online. There was some game, I'm not going to bring it up now because I don't want to, maybe in another video later because I need to talk about indie stuff in general, but like some small indie game that was like, hey, it's been a year since I released our game. By the way, someone got 360 no scope today. It's some Nazi, yay. And it's just like, what are you doing? This is a vile statement and it brings nothing but negative attention to your game. And for the games industry in general, if you have people that are celebrating political violence towards either side of the political spectrum, what you are doing is you are having that entire side look at you and say, I don't want to financially support that. So you have the potential to have your market to sell your game. And most studios can't afford that. Like a lot of these studios, they spend so much money on their games. And when people are emboldened by these extremist circles to say these really terrible things, if they actually say those things publicly with their company name in their bio, all that you do is you tell people that think that that is some vile thing that, oh, well, I guess the company agrees with it, especially with Sucker Punch. So many people from Sucker Punch are talking about this. And they're just like, yeah, I love it. And a lot of people had already been kind of on the fence with them when they put in the main character for the new game. And the new character is one of those people that are just like, man, I hate TERFs. Man, don't you hate transphobes? Oh, transphobes are terrible. And that same kind of demonization. What is a TERF? It is someone that doesn't fully agree with transgender ideology. And every year that ideology gets a little more extreme. So if you don't also then up the extremism of your belief of what should be okay, well, now you're a TERF. You're terrible. You are one of the worst people in the world. This casual dehumanization that we've seen from people that people in the games industry have jumped in and on top of to say we need to take this game and we need to change it completely to push our worldview because that's what people want. They want to see our worldview, our sick, twisted, echo chamber worldview, and they think that that is what the whole world wants, and that is just not the case. What I would like to see out of this, in addition to the people getting fired, and I know some people will be like, oh, well, you've talked about how cancel culture is bad, so why would you say this now? And I don't like cancel culture, but you cannot have people glorifying violence. That is not something for civil society. Get those people out. I don't care. Like, it is really, you cannot do that. It is the number of teachers professors, a number of people in the armed forces that will openly say, "Oh yeah, he deserved to die." That is not how somebody should act. You know, especially in the military, you cannot be saying these things. They're going to be out fast, and good riddance, because that if you have had your personal discipline in these like professions where you need to actually be professional be so degraded where you're willing to just look at someone and say, I'm okay with this terrible act because I disagreed with them, then you're not welcome. Why should we have to put up with these people that um, think it's okay to kill people that they disagree with? But in addition to all the firings, what I want to see is a bigger crackdown from the government on a lot of these tech firms. We have, hold on, come here, buddy. Hey, buddy. We have a lot of, we've seen a lot of issues in places like Reddit or Blue Sky in particular, where they have these huge circles. They have moderated it in a way where differing worldviews get banned from like the websites or certain forums. Reddit has made it so that basically all the major conservative portions of the website have been banned or kicked off or shut down. And so what you get is more extreme and extreme places on the left where these moderators are emboldened by the company itself, because the company agrees with them. They're out in in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. That's a cesspool, dude. That place is delusional beyond belief, and you have them letting this go because they agree with it. Same with Twitch, where Twitch, they'll like sing happy birthday to Hassan Piker, and the guy is consistently calling for violence. It's just not a lot of we've given a lot of power to a lot of these big companies, and we've given them things like Section 230, where we'll look at them and say, hey, we're going to give you a pass on a lot of things as long as you don't do these certain moderation. I looked into it a bit, and it doesn't look like there are any cases where a company has had their Section 230 protections removed. There's some case that's moving through the legislature, but there's no like easy way to be like, hey, you're going to lose this. So maybe it would be appropriate to sue some of these places for this. I think it would be most appropriate for the government to directly talk to places like Amazon and Microsoft, because they provide the majority of cloud services to like the government has a lot of contracts through these places, and these places are allowing this type of vile behavior to go on. So what I would like to see is the government come down and say, hey, you have these terms of service where you are like, look, your websites and services that are hosted using our infrastructure, they cannot glorify violence or promote terrorism or all these things. And realistically, places like Blue Sky and Reddit glorify violence. They have a lot of calls to actions where they just simply veil it a little bit. I remember there was some kid that got arrested from across the country because he made some threat to some Florida sheriff and said, oh, but in Minecraft, and they hauled him across country to prosecute him. I want to see that for a lot of these people that are casually making calls to violence online, because let me bring up something that somebody posted on Twitter. It's Tim Pool. Buddy, you're making it hard to type. Let me bring you over here to just kind of show you how one-sided this stuff is. Oh man, I don't even know what the heck's going on with the website right now. Likes, was it likes? I put a bookmark on it. I'll figure it out in a second. But you have these people that will make these casual calls of violence on all these websites, and we have laws on the books to just say, hey, if you do or say these certain things, you're going to get in trouble. Like, you can be prosecuted for these. And some of those are going to be state by state. But let me, right here, Tim Pool. I was swatted 15 times in 1 year. I had the bomb squad at my studio twice. We had to evacuate for 3 hours during our show. Last year, a man in a dress attacked one of my employees at our old location. We have armed guards. This is how it's been because of the left. I haven't heard of anyone on the left that's had a similar issue. Have you? The amount of insanity that goes on from this one side, and it's largely ignored, and it's just like, oh well, it's free speech, and it's like, it's not free speech to call for to make these calls to violence. That is not a thing. Like, it is. We cannot have a society like this. Like, this has to be cracked down on. A lot of people are really, really angry, and as I've become less sad, I've become more angry. So I'm trying to like balance it out to be like, this is someone that was willing to talk with anyone. They were killed for it. It's going to push more people potentially into a more radical side of things. And I do want to wrap this up with one last thing, just to kind of talk in general. Is with this kind of terrible action, I think it is. Actually, before that, let me tell you a little bit about some of my personal beliefs. So, for most of my life, I would consider myself an atheist. But even then, I would look at things and say, like, that's evil. Like, you may have seen this in certain things as well, where you would like read a story and you'd be like, dude, this is awful. I also believed in monsters. I don't think monsters are like these 50 to 100-foot tall kaiju that are walking around. I think monsters are, they look like you and me, but there's something broken in them. And I think it's really important when these terrible things happen to just not be evil. Like, don't commit violence on people. We want to be a civil society. We want to be a society of laws and not chaos. So if you are someone that's going, like, looking at all this and you're super angry, totally justified to be super angry, we need to temper ourselves so that we can make positive change for the country and the West in general, because there's a lot of crazy leftists all over Western society that are actively working to do things to destroy society, whether it be to stamp down on free speech and try and monitor their citizens. Like, UK is abominable. We've seen issues out of Canada. We've seen issues in general out of a lot of European countries where you're just not allowed to say certain things. And once upon a time, I might have been like, well, yeah, you shouldn't say certain things because, it calls to violence or whatever. But like, as time's gone on, how these countries have treated it is, if you have a opinion they disagree with from like the government side, they're just like, well, how can we arrest this person so that we don't have to deal with them? Like, how many videos have we seen from out of the UK of someone that's getting arrested because, like, oh, you've caused them to feel anxiety, so you have to go to jail. And it's like, I'm so glad we broke away from you guys. You guys are such animals for at the government level for the UK. Bunch of savages, honestly. But we need to temper ourselves, bring our anger down, and try and do whatever we can to get this evil out of our society. This ideology that believes that this is okay needs to be stamped out. It is unacceptable. It cannot be allowed to keep going on. Whether that be firing tens of thousands of people because they're running out there and they are immediately cheering on these savage acts, whether it is trying to push for these major companies that allow these echo chambers to exist to be punished, or even just enforce their own rules. If we can just get them to enforce their own terms of service, this would not be an issue on so many websites. For those of you that are happy about this happening, I hope that in time you are able to look back at this and recognize that by cheering on political violence against someone for disagreeing with you is bad, because violence is a two-way street. If you believe it is okay for violence to happen to people that you disagree with, then that means that people that disagree with you are given a pass to commit violence against people that you like or potentially you. There are going to be extremists that are so far gone that they will never think that what they've done is wrong. Those are a lost cause by and large. But there's a lot of people, I think, that can potentially kind of like come back to the light, and like we can take this evil that's kind of taken root where it's acceptable to call for violence. It's acceptable to glorify it. It's acceptable. They can give it a pass for all these things and just say, hey, that's not okay. That's not the kind of society we want to live in. That is a vile mindset. And we can't have it. So, and there will be people out there that they want that violence, right? That they've put themselves in this mindset where they believe it's okay because they believe that their opinion is more important than anything in the world. And I genuinely hope that they do not get their way, because and for those, if you are one of those people that believe that, then, you know, if you do get your way, like, may God have mercy on your soul, because in the world that you wish for, there's not mercy for you. There's not mercy for me. There's not mercy for anyone. It's just violence. And that is not something that I wish for anyone. I think we can all agree, well, the more reasonable people can agree, that we do not want to live in a society where violence is what decides what is okay or not. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to wish you all well, like, no matter what your opinions on this are. And I'm going to go back to regularly scheduled stuff soon. This has been a really stressful week, and unfortunate to see everything kind of come together the way it did. But I wish you all well. And I hope to see you again in a future video. Farewell.